And thanks for being patient to our soon-to-be commissioners. We really appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and take items 12, 13, 14, and 15. Mr. Fuentes, if you want to open it up.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to invite the commissioners to the center table, all four of you, please. And as they're coming up, I want to point out that Mr. Labange is the lucky winner here. 3 of the 4, please sit at the center table there. Mr. Labange's district has 3 soon-to-be commissioners from CD4, and Mr. Bonin has Mr. Funderburk. These commission candidates were interviewed by the Energy Environment Committee on Monday, and they were all unanimously approved members to come before you for your confirmation.
Great, thank you very much. And with that, we'll go ahead and ask any, Mr. Blumenfeld. Ask the commissioners to open up, but we'll have council members go ahead and open it up. Mr. Blumenfeld, please.
Okay, well, I don't have questions, I just have a couple of comments. There's 2 of the members on that are before us that I know very, very well, and I want to make a couple comments about both, starting with Jill Berard, the chair of the Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils. She's been just a great voice, known you for more than a decade, and you just have been a great voice for the Valley, for the community, and you're going to be a great addition. And I just know that you're going to be a strong voice, and I want to thank you for heeding the call and coming before us.
Thank you.
And then I also want a special for Congressman Levine. Known him for multiple decades. When I started with Howard Berman back in the early 90s, in 91, he was in Congress, and the 2 of them were such close friends that I felt like I worked for you for years, because we worked together on so many things. And over the years, you've not only been a mentor to me, and an advisor, but just an amazing role model. So I wanted to acknowledge both of you, acknowledge all of you that are here, but particularly the 2 that I know so well, and just to add my voice in advance of the questions for my support for you. So thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Parks.
Good morning. So pleased to see all of you. I just had not any questions, because you're going to be inundated with questions as you take on your assignment. But there's about 5 or 6 priorities that I hope that you'd look at. And if you've read the paper over the last couple of years, you'll probably recognize some of these. But the one thing I would hope you'd be looking at very closely is the overall medical costs of LADWP employees, not only where we put a lot of time on the percentage they might pay for their existing medical or their retirement, but the overall cost of their programs, which have spiraled out of control in my judgment, where when you compare them to the rest of the city, over the last 10 years, medical costs has gone up by 110%, and DWP is over 170%. And so those are things that at some point I think we're going to have to look at whether you even consider freezing their subsidy so that you can bring in and rein in some of the costs. The other issues, even though in this recent contract there was discussion about a new tier and new pension reform, because it's an in-house inclusionary system, it is even more of an effort to bring light to that by the Commission. Because of that, the Commission is the one group that can control pension costs. And as you know, the things that put the city in structural deficit is generally personnel costs, whether it's dealing with medical, salary, or pension costs. And in many instances, I think it's pretty clear that pension costs alone is going to drive many more structural deficit and maybe even bankruptcy down the road. It appears that we're in pretty good shape of paying pensions for people that are retired, but existing employees and future employees just might be in trouble. And so these are things that we'd hope you look at. The issue of renewable energy, unfortunately, we hear about that only around the time of a rate increase. And then when we go back and look at what's done between rate increases, it's not been impressive. And I think if you look at some of the short-term decisions about when and how we were able to use it or not use it, you're going to find that we spent a lot of money on renewable energy that we got very little benefit of. And even though we have high percentages to reach, It's been a very costly program with little results. The other one is disparity in salaries. There's about 200 positions in the DWP that range from 20 to 40% difference in salary. We're not talking about the people that deal with the 10,000 volts of electricity. We're talking about dispatchers, accountants, the identical same list that promote and hire people in other city departments. Just because you're fortunate enough to go to DWP, your salary is 20 to 40% over. In some instances, it's 20 to 40% over the industry standards. So that's another issue. And as you know, salary drives the whole issue of the structural deficit. What came to light during the negotiation of these side letters, it appears that over the last couple of decades that we've had individual general managers and unions make decisions that never came before the board, never came to the council, yet they cost literally millions of dollars to implement and continue as far as bonuses and a variety of things. And then finally, the pending water and power increases, rate increases. If we look back in the city, we've doubled or tripled trash fees. We've had 5 or 6 consecutive years of parking enforcement fines. The community is almost to the point, particularly with water bills and power bills, of saying we price ourselves out of business. And so there's really a need to look at how we can restrain that. Many people don't understand that tier program, and if you happen to get a bill trying to explain why it all of a sudden went out of kilter, it's because of somebody that month got a little bit out of the tier, and it's very expensive in that regard. And so those are 5 or 6 things I'd ask you to look at. They're not new. There's probably stuff in file that's got dust on it that people looked at and chose not to deal with. But it's hopefully you'll have the will to bring some of these things to conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kokorian.
Thank you, Mr. President, and congratulations to all of you on your appointment. I want to echo Mr. Blumenfield's comments with regard to Congressman Levine and also my dear friend and former constituent, Joe Banks-Barad. This is a historic appointment. For all of you, this is a historic moment in our city, and your leadership of our utility at this critical moment, this really challenging moment when we're going through almost complete infrastructure replacement, and we're going through rate challenges that we have. We're changing the relationship with labor, we hope. In so many ways, this is a transitional moment in our city's history that you're joining this department on. But I want to speak specifically to Jill's appointment, because I don't know that there has ever been a time in our city's history when a voice of neighborhoods, a voice of our neighborhood councils has taken on this role in the Water and Power Commission, which is something that the neighborhood councils have sought for so long. And I can't think of a better person to fill that role than you, Jill. And I think it's going to be a unique opportunity for ratepayers and for the residents of our communities to have a unique voice on the board, and I couldn't be more thrilled about your appointment. I want to just ask a couple of questions, I think, related to some of Mr. Park's topics and give you all an opportunity to speak to them if you choose. First, I have a little different view than Mr. Parks with regard to our renewable energy portfolio. I mean, yes, there are some contracts that standing by themselves may not seem like they're cost effective relative to gas. But over the longer term, when you consider the state mandates, the federal mandates that we're operating under, the deferral of the need for more investment in gas-powered generation, I think that a sustainable renewable portfolio over the long haul is in fact cost-effective, and I'd like to know what your thoughts are on our commitment to renewable energy. I'd also like to hear your thoughts on the ratepayer advocate and the need for this board and the department to be completely and unflinchingly cooperative with our ratepayer advocate when it comes to access to records and otherwise giving him the information that he needs to be able to assess the actions of the department. Mr. Parks mentioned the side letters, and it's something that I want to reiterate as well, because over the course of decades, this department has entered into transactions with its employees that this council has never been aware of, that never came before the Budget Committee, never came before the Personnel Committee, never came before this council, and that just can never happen. So I'd like to know that all of you are committed to ensuring that any side letters like that that come before you will also come before the council, or else they won't be entered into. Then finally, I'm hoping that, I think most of you are probably aware that a couple of years ago there was a showdown, if you will, between the council and the board with regard to the power revenue transfer and its relationship to our refusal to enter into a rate increase, and particularly an ECAF increase at that time. And if you are aware of that, I'd like to know your thoughts about the relationship between the power revenue transfer and this council's action, and your commitment to cooperating with the council when it comes to ensuring the continued viability of our budget and our reliance on our expectation of receiving the power revenue transfer. And congratulations.
Well, I'll jump in. Mr. Councilman, thank you very, very much for your warm comments and your congratulations and your questions. Frankly, I'm not familiar with that history, but I can tell you this, speaking for myself, it's obviously critically important that we work very closely with the council as well as the mayor. And in terms of the significant challenges that we're going to be facing, some of which were outlined by Councilman Parks and by you, cooperative and collaborative work is essential. And I can assure you that we will be working closely with you and that we will be seeking transparency and openness in all of our actions.
I want to thank Councilman Krikorian for your very, very kind words. You know, the neighborhood councils were the ones that really pushed for a ratepayer advocate. And I certainly would pledge, and I'm sure my colleagues would too, to work closely with the ratepayer advocate. But I don't think the ratepayer advocate should work in a vacuum. We should work together. And I think it's important that the ratepayer advocate hear from not only the community, but the business community as well. Because DWP touches every pocketbook in LA, business and the residents. And in terms of transparency, you know, that tends to be an overworked word now. But in this case, it's appropriate. We must have transparency. We must be able to look inside DWP.
Great. Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to all of you and Mr. Fuentes, because my district runs from the heart of the city in Wilshire area throughout the Hollywood Hills and then to the San Fernando Valley and way out to Sepulveda. There happens to be 3 members. It would all be different districts if the redistricting wasn't what it was, but it is what it is. That being said, you have an important role in so many ways, and I hope you develop individual skills. And Mr. Levine and John for all Chambers, I invoke the name of John because he loved you and what you did as a congressman for the United States and your service and your knowledge of the city. And I think that will be helpful to make sure we make congressional delegations knowledgeable of Los Angeles' needs, not just the Los Angeles delegation, but the California delegation and other parts as well. Sometimes we get the bad end of the stick because we're big bad Los Angeles, think we know everything, we're movie stars, all that baloney. We're real people who need real needs, and DWP has provided those needs for over 100 years. Generation, transmission, distribution, the power, and having a blend. Look at the blend. It can't go all ways. Some days it's not windy. Nice breeze last night, but if it doesn't blow, you don't get the power. Sometimes it's cloudy, you don't get the sun. Having the diversity of power use is so important. And I also believe in tours, Jill. I believe in tours to show people what the port's about, what the city hall's about, what DWP's about. And not fancy tours, not in Lincoln town cars, but in buses. And take them out to the table. Like that table, you go to Lee Vining. The creek is about as wide as that table. That's where the water starts and flows to the aqueduct. Show them where it is. Show them about it and educate people. Information is knowledge is power. I want to thank you all. Celebrate the department's history. This year is the centennial of Mulholland. Without water, we would have grown. Without water, we would have built this city. But education is so important. But develop your specialties. All of you come from great backgrounds. So the specialties will help the department. There's a lot of good people over there who have done great things as engineers and others to support. Out working high on top of a 75-foot pole in the heat of the desert right now, connecting transmission to power this light. And more importantly, Mr. President, to power this microphone. I thank you, I congratulate you, and wish you well, and call on me for help, okay? And work with the neighborhoods, the business community. You had a great speech, all of you did, but Joe, that was very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Wesson.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. All I have is a request of Billy here. It's my understanding, and I met them, that you have some very special guests with us today. Would you introduce them? I mean, I think it's important.
Well, besides my two wonderful daughters, the Reverend Dr. James Hargett and his wife, Dr. Llewellyn Funderburk Hargett, are here in the back of the chambers, and those who remember him in the 60s, he ran Martin Luther King's campaign in the 1960s in Los Angeles. So I wanted to recognize him. I hope to serve a fraction of what he did in serving LADWP and the ratepayers of the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you.
Great. Thank Mr. Labange again for a second.
Preparation of my notes, I thought one very important thing. Recreation of parks and libraries, they pay a rate. Look at their rate to see what you can find out. They're great institutions that need your help and partnership. Rec and Parks does not charge you when the RSC, River Supply Conduit, comes through Griffith Park. They don't charge you on that. But it's very important in Mr. Weston's district and all our districts that you lower the rates for libraries and rec and parks so we can continue our reading programs and also our athletic, youth, and other programs. Thank you so much. Rec and Parks, libraries. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Seeing no other speakers on the queue, I want to just make a quick comment. As I don't know most of you, but I've worked with some of you over the years, and particularly Joe Barrato, I've known for many, many years, and you have somebody special. I saw Ross here earlier. There he's waving. And I'm sure you all have some special family and friends that are here today. This is an awesome responsibility. It's an incredible responsibility. As I tell people in my district, there are two issues that affect people each and every single day, particularly in my district in the Northwest Valley, and that's the streets and their DWP bill. And every time they open it, it takes about 60 days to just overcome that, and then they open the next one. And so, as we know, and we've talked for a long time about what we can do in this great city, what we should be doing, and this is probably one of the most important. Put it up there as the top, one of the most important commissions and responsibilities for so many reasons, as we've all shared here today. I think we've got an incredible palette of people here with incredible backgrounds and resumes and lifetime experiences. Ask everybody for their aye vote, and with that, we'll go ahead and open the roll and close the roll and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Congratulations, Godspeed. Forthwith, we'll send that forthwith as well without objection. Thank you very, very much. Congratulations. Mr. Kretz, are you ready for item 20?
Yeah, there's still some crap.
Yes.
Yes, and Mr. Parks first.
I just want to know if we were going to comply with our request yesterday to have 42 heard early because of the time sensitivity on that legislation for Sacramento.
We do have a hold on 42 right now.
Yeah, we want to see if we had talked about having it early in our agenda.
So you want to have it now?
We're ready.
Mr. Kretz, if you're okay with that, we'll go ahead and take item 42 because of the time sensitivity and Mr. Parks' request. I'd like to go ahead and take item 42 then. Okay, we've already had, Mr. Parks, we had public comment, we had cards on it, we spoke on that, so I wanted to open it with you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd ask the CLA to come up. Yesterday